one of those days where everything happens at the very same time. My sincere apologies for being late. Well, since I had to bring a late note, uh, look, I hope Ash is up to speed because I'm a little bit under the pump, I've got to say. So I'm not going to be able to give you too much instant information on the markets, but we can go through them together, no problems. First thing we'll do, as always, is take a look at the pound, shall we? Okie dokie. All right, disregard these numbers because they are irrelevant at this point. Looks like a big doji bar sitting there, does it? Not on the hourly chart. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's have a look at it. Certainly not in a range right now that I'm looking at anyway, so I probably wouldn't be looking to trade this. But bear with me just for a couple of seconds. And we'll get some perspective. Right, what have we got? A little bit wider, please. Yeah, no, look, I can't call that a range at this point, so we won't be trading the pound breakout today. And for that reason, we can move on to something else. Let's start with, I'm not sure where Ash is. I've been trying to contact him in my absence, of course. I was unable to make the start of the show, but I don't know that he's online. He won't be too far away, I'm pretty sure, because he didn't tell me he wasn't going to be here, unless something dreadful has happened, and let's not even think about that. Hang on 2 seconds. I'll just clean this up. Rightio. So let's go back to yesterday, and I'll give you guys what I was looking at for the week based on the weekly bars. And if you recall, last week my radar was a little bit out of kilter, I've got to say. Let's hope it's back in operation this week. So the first thing I saw was, pardon me, pretty much this double cross. It's not exactly that, but it is a potential lower high. Certainly, it looks as though there's a one way and another and a rejection, and that to me looks to be to the downside. If I look at this chart and I see this strong former support level and resistance level, and once again resistance, and you also note that 2 months ago we had this big key reversal bar. Well, it's actually not a key reversal bar because it didn't close on its low or near its low, but it's certainly a rejection bar of that level. So that's still in play as far as I'm concerned. We've got an inside bar there last month, and currently we're still inside that area. So I'm still thinking the downside, that candle there is interesting, and pretty much everything is still inside that. So I'm working on a break retest scenario here with a rejection bar. I don't know that I want to trade this this bar on the weekly, but I think I'd be very keen to look at it on the smaller timeframes. And if I get the indication that we are going to go short, then that's exactly what I would be looking to do. So how do we do that? We've got a double top sitting here. We've got a lower low. We've got a lower high-ish. Then we've got another lower low, and we've got another lower high. So are we trending? Probably we are trending, certainly starting to look that way. So I'd be looking for downside again based on that information. But then I go to this chart and I see the weekly pivot and the daily pivot holding on to price like it's no tomorrow, which is not something that I really do like to see. Happy Monday to you too, Paul. Well, that's if I'm looking for a directional bias. But if I consider that situation, are we now going into range? We've got we've got two equal lows. We've probably got two equal highs here. So I'm probably starting to think that this week may even pan out as a range trading exercise for Aussie Swissy. But my bias, as per the longer time frames, is most definitely short. I also see this scenario here, 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians. And when I see that, I think downside. And that's what we've seen so far. In fact, we've broken that range here, retested it there, broken it again, and retesting pretty much that level at this very moment. I don't see anything to trade right now, but here's what I'll be looking for on the smaller time frames. I'd either be looking at that or potentially another one through here. And I'd be looking for a false break. So if this were to come under here now, take out the weekly pivot and retest that confluence area, I think that would be an excellent place to get short. Happy Monday to you, Paul P. And hi, Hanan. How are we all doing? My sincere apologies once again for my late arrival today. I do have a very, very good reason. It was to do with my other business. I'm sorry. So either up to here, monthly pivot, back underneath the daily and trade line, retest it, short, taking profit at the weekly pivot, or maybe even the backside of that trade line we would see as that day or as that price progressed. The other one I was looking at was Euro Swissy, not dissimilar in many, many ways to the Aussie. And here I see on the weekly chart, pretty much the same scenario as I saw before, without really the big bearish bar. If you go back to Aussie Swissy and go back to the bigger time frames, big bearish bar there, big bearish bar there, but I don't see that on Euro Swissy. That doesn't mean it's not ready to go. And if you have a look at this level here, we have rebroken it, come back underneath it and retested it. That smells to me of a false breakout. Now, you know, I was speaking for the last couple of weeks about these type of candles that, in my humble opinion, really had to break to the high side and did. We haven't yet seen that on the next one that I'm about to show you, but to me, this is now a false break of that level. And that candle there is really interesting. I'm even considering trading that. Entry would be there, 92 pips, and you've got, you know, probably the best part of 70 odd, 75 odd until you get to the support level, which of course was the breakout level. It is a decent candle for me to trade. I don't mind it. I wouldn't like to be trading on a small time frame right now because you'd be trading straight into the level here. That makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think on the weekly chart, that's definitely worth our attention. So we are going to place a trade on that Euro Swissy on the weekly chart. Hang on, I'll write down the levels so I don't have to come back to it. The entry will be 1.097 or 1.0969 actually. 1.0969. The stop loss above the monthly pivot there, that's a good place for it. 1.1067. 1.1067. And the TP1 I think will be pretty clear. I think we can go to there. 10888. That'll be TP1. So that's Euro Swissy short. I'll type it up for you in case you want to follow it. It's on the weekly chart. There we go. Sell at 1.0969 with a stop loss at 1.1067 and TP1 will be 1.0888. There we go. Let's hope my radar, my directional bias radar is in form this week, whereas last week I just couldn't find the right direction at all. Let's see how we go. Euro Swissy. Now I'll just, g'day Ash, how you doing, bud?
I'm all right, mate. How's things?
Oh, I'm out of breath.
Sorry, mate. I didn't get your message.
No,
I
that's okay.
I just saw it now.
There you go. I'm going to be late, Ash.
Sorry, buddy.
That's okay. Here's the next one I'm going to show you. And we were concentrating on this all week last week and probably for a couple of weeks. It now looks no less intriguing than it did before, but it probably looks even a little bit more complex than it was before. But this is still the main player as far as I'm concerned. Everything is still inside this bar, and that will change. And when it does, look out, something will happen. My technical instinct tells me that it's going that way. My heart, not really my heart, but I'll call it my fundamental bias, tells me it's going to go the other way. But I've got to trade what I see, and what I see is very clear to me from a bigger picture point of view, and it is that we're going up here. I don't know where we're going to, maybe only to here, but that's 700 or 800 pips away, so it's going to be worth the journey if we can get into it. However, the immediate future looks clouded to me, and it would not surprise me in the least if we come back here again, maybe have a look at that low, maybe even have a look at these lows. So I'm getting a very clear picture that it's going the other way at the moment. And I think we could even look to trade that bar right there. It is a clear double cross of the monthly pivot. It is a clear false break of this resistance trade line. It looks like the weekly pivot has had a retest, or has had a test. No, not quite. Probably would have liked to have seen that happen. Let me see if this is even worth considering from a reward point of view. And I don't think it is, frankly. So you've got to enter there, maybe even there. You've got to get your risk or your stop loss rather above the weekly pivot, probably about there somewhere. So 114 pips. Best case scenario, in my opinion, I really can't see this going lower anytime soon. So best case scenario is going to be 1-to-1, and you're going to have to take profit probably here-ish, or here at worst. You'd have to take profit there, which is only half of the risk, not even half of the risk. So by the time you've hit there, 1-to-1 becomes a 1/2-to-1, the way I trade, because I'm going to get safe here, right? And that's going to ruin my reward. So although I see this, and I think it's a pretty damn good setup, I'm not going to trade it because the reward versus the risk is just not there. However, if I were to see this as a possibility on a smaller time frame, and I could get a better reward to risk, then I would certainly do that. But at the moment, and this happens often at the beginning of the week where we've got the pivots very, very close together, the market on a Monday for mine isn't that appetizing, and I really don't see too much movement outside of this area this Monday. But I'm certainly across it, and I will be looking for it. The only other one I was looking at was pound CAD, and pound CAD, really for the reason that it's gone into a range here. So I'll be looking to trade this to the top, back to the monthly pivot, and then probably continue in that vein. If I've got a bias, it's very, very difficult to see right now because I don't know where this is headed ultimately. But I do know that we're in a range, and we're in probably 2 or 3 ranges. The immediate range that we're in is the one I'm interested in. So we'll keep looking for that. I think a nice little test of the pivots here on the daily candle would be interesting, but also the same could be said on the 4-hour chart. But what I can also see is the potential for this to go in the opposite direction if it comes back under here. So there's another range in here, right, on a very small time frame. So it's far from crystal clear as to which way to go today. Untested daily pivot kind of leads me going in this direction before it goes that way, but we'll see. So, mate, honestly, I'm not in a crystal clear position at the moment. I've got a few options, but they're multi-directional at this point. I hope the radar just clears itself a little bit so I can actually get a good firm start to the week. How about you?
Oh, mate. Well, let's let's go from ground up a little bit. From my perspective, let me see what I'm
Joe,
doing.
I will have a look at those pairs when Ash is done, mate, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, some of those pairs are actually on my radar as well.
Okay, well, we'll talk about them on your charts then when you're done.
Yeah, we can check them out. So I'm just finding the right window here. This one should do. Yeah, this one does. Okay. Right. So let's just quickly just have a run of the week, just to kind of get cracking. And the first thing that we see is that there is very little in the way of data. Certainly today, you know, we got trade balance from Japan, which came in positive, and we've been looking at a few of the numbers really from some of the other countries coming out pretty well, and you know, it's indicative of a rebound in economic health. Rightmove HPI. So this is to do with the house price index. Looks like it's rising quite a bit in the UK. So again, you know, really kind of giving us the picture that the economic health is certainly coming back from a very low point. But there's not really any significant data here. This stuff is really stuff that we want to make sure that we understand and make sure that we know about, just to get just to understand what's going on a little bit further behind the scenes. And what we're seeing here to start with is the trade balance from Japan. If we were to filter that back, then what we're effectively saying is that the Japanese economy, which is based on trade, you know, it's based on exports, I should say, is moving towards where it should be. And if we look at the actual charts here, then we have seen a big dip. You know, 2019, quite a few dips. Right in 2014 as well, there was quite a few dips. But really, what we associate with Japan, which is why, you know, the yen is a safe haven currency, is more like this. You know, more like what was going on between 2000 and 2010, where trade balances were quite were positive. You know, quite significantly positive. Yes, it dipped down in this area, but looked like it was getting back onto trend. But then it just started to dip. You know, during this particular period, Japan has had a terrible time, which is quite which runs in line quite nicely with what they've been doing with their interest rates. Another positive period here, but then another dip here. Are we getting back to more of a positive period? Does it become something more significant like we saw back in the early 2000s, or are we just going to kind of get this flip-flopping back and forth? But this is extreme. You know, this area down here is very extreme, and this looks like it was just trying to get back again, but it's getting back on track. So that kind of makes me go towards the yen, you know, but just because you mentioned the yen, Jaira, in your question. So the yen with this particular metric is positive. Not really much else this week, which is going to drive the market significantly. Now let's have a look through the week and see what may. CPI is from New Zealand, obviously going to be important for those guys. We got some monetary policy meeting minutes from Australia. It's given a yellow folder, but it really does depend on what's said. There might be something significant. We don't really know. German PPI is going to be an important metric for what's going on in Europe. And this is really important. I'm surprised this is given a yellow folder, really. Average earnings index, claimant count, and unemployment rates all given yellow folders, which if we're just looking at the Rightmove, the HPIs from Rightmove, that gives us an indication of economic health. Well, of course, the workforce gives us an indication of economic health as well. So we need to really look out to see what kind of jobs are being created and what kind of jobs are or have been lost and people are claiming for. So this is something that we can look out for on Tuesday. Retail sales, I think, is a really important metric. Again, I'm quite surprised it's only orange. Obviously, CPI year on year is important as well. So we get a much deeper look into the United Kingdom this week, by the looks of things, and many things from Canada. Then we get the monetary policy statement. So this suggests that you've got to be careful before Wednesday trading the CAD in either direction. I can tell you that things are all right in Canada, but there has been a bit of a choke in some of the trade, so some of the exports. So that might start to come through a little bit. Crude inventory is very important as well. So Wednesday looks like the day that we should really be paying attention to. ECB on a Thursday is obviously important. ECB press conference is obviously important as well. I'm not sure how important this one or how significant this one's going to be, because Christine Lagarde has really played her cards and they're really all laid out on the table. We know that they're not planning to do anything until the second half of the year, and we are still embedded in the first half of the year. So is this likely to be a telling and informative statement that is going to change things? I don't think so. So I'm not sure whether Thursday is going to give us any clarity, any further clarity on the euro. So for that reason, I would suggest the euro is probably okay to trade. Unemployment claims again from United States is going to be an important metric to follow. And then we get the big numbers really from Europe on Friday. So this would suggest that this is a much more important and significant day when it comes down to Europe. And probably the pound as well. Flash manufacturing and services, really, really significant manufacturing also from the States. So it looks like we might be waiting till Friday before we get a genuine feel of the market, mate. But what I have noticed is that there's very little in the way of Swissy, very little in the way of the Aussie, and very little in the way of the Kiwi, aside from that CPI data. So that would drag me towards probably a yen Aussie trade, which if any of you in the broadcast group, you know that that I have put that trade in the market, and I gave you numbers on that during the broadcast group. So let's see where that is and what I'm expecting, because it's still actually in an okay place to trade this. And here's the trade here. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be the best. There we go. I never know what's the best color for everybody to see, but I usually use a black background. Now, COT and seasonality are both positive for the yen. COT less so, but it's still positive. Seasonality much more so. We are looking for a run to the upside with the Japanese yen over the course of the next few months. The Aussie, very, very weak seasonally, coming up to a very weak period seasonally. And COT data it has been weak, but it has just eased off a little bit on the weakness. So it does still drag me towards it. And I was trying to trade this last week, as you guys know. I got stopped out on the first one, but I'm still going after it. And I said last week that my strategy was let it get stopped out if needs be. When it goes higher, I should be able to get a better price. And I've decided to take that price. And this is why I'm looking at the monthly chart. And the monthly chart is still at an area of potential resistance. I don't know whether this is going to hold or not, but I like this. I like that. Oh gosh, don't want that as I don't want that as black because I can't see it. So I'm just going to put it on white. I like this area. I like this area. It's probably not the strongest area on the chart, but it is strong. You know, we see this horizontal zone here back in 2015. We see it react here in 2016. We see it react quite a few times here in 2018. And we're back there now. So I am expecting this to provide a bit of weakness. And I'm not sure if it will be here. It might be. This is a much better level. It's much cleaner. There's some open water between the resistance point and some open water between the support point as well. So this is a cleaner area to try the short on. So if it does go from here, no problem. I'll wait until it gets back up to there, and you know I may well be taking a few trades in this area if it stops me out, but still looks weak, and I'm prepared for that. And I'm also prepared to let this travel up to this area at 99. Nice round number as well. You know, getting closer to a round number there at 99. So if it gets up to 99. Decent horizontal level of resistance, so I'll also look for the shorts there, as long as the cotton seasonals are still in line. You know, that might not be till this time next year, possibly. And that's at that point, then obviously the seasonals will be in line because they are at this point of the year. Whether the COT data is, I don't know, but I like it here. So that's the monthly chart. That's the longer term view. What we're seeing on the weekly chart is just a little bit of a hint that there's some weakness here. A few bars that suggest that there is enough in the way of interested sellers. You know, the sellers are willing to pay, willing to get rid of their assets at a lesser price. And if this does start to fall, then that's what we'll see. On the daily chart, we did have this head and shoulders pattern, but I'm going to now suggest that this is over. And the reason I'm going to suggest that this is over is that the equilibrium between the left shoulder and the right shoulder is probably negated. I'm going to say that the left shoulder is probably there, which means that the right shoulder, whoops, if I can grab this thing. Maybe not, actually. Maybe not. Depends. It might just look a bit odd. I mean, that might be the neckline, the start of the neckline, which would give that... maybe I don't need to suggest that. I'll tell you why I was thinking of it being a bit over is because that looks a bit tidier as an extreme, and that would mean that we've run over that particular level. But it might be that we can say that this is the right shoulder area here, left shoulder area here, and that's the head, the middle of the head. So going back to the middle of the head, that would give it just another couple of days. So that might be okay. So let's not ignore that as a potential pattern, which would mean that we are on the top of the right shoulder here. So on the dailies, it looks pretty good. Now, if we go to the 4 hour, what I like about the 4 hour is that it has given us a lower high here. Sorry, a lower low here. And what I'm trying to establish is this point the lower high? So we've got the, let's make sure this isn't going to get written in black. We've got the lower low here. If this is the low, we've got the lower low here. And we've got a high point here. So is this the lower high? Well, I'm going to suggest that I'm going to give it a go to say it is. Now, of course, the issue when you guys are looking on your charts, I know what you're screaming at your screen, even though you're not screaming it in the chat room. So maybe you're not screaming at the screen. I know what Jeff will be screaming at his screen. He'll be saying, are you mad? We've got a monthly pivot and a weekly pivot that we're both above. And I will say, yes, I am. And we've got an untested daily pivot. That's what Jeff will be saying to me. And I'll say, yes, maybe I am a bit mad. But I quite like the lower high. And this would still be the lower high here. So I might be a bit early on this one. I might be 20 or so pips too early. And I accept that. But what I quite liked about this was that the hourlies were starting to show that this could well be an area of potential resistance here. And that's why I've taken the trade possibly a bit early. Than I should have done, but my stop's way out the way, so I'm prepared for that to be prepared to be wrong. And yes, this isn't an issue. So it might even be that I'm a week early. It might even be that I'm a month early. I don't know. But it is an issue. But if it clears that point, then we've really got some potentially some movement, so potentially some space to go to the downside. And when I look at it, my targets are going to be down around about 70, 80, between 70, 80. And I quite like this point as well, around about the 81 level. So somewhere between 81 and 70, 80 would be a buy point, if you like, in the Aussie yen. So these points, this is the point that I'm looking to take profit. So I'm looking for around about a 4-to-1 or potentially a 8-to-1. 8 or 9-to-1. So that's the Aussie, mate. And I'm sure you're going to come back on that in a bit. And you can come back on it now if you like.
Yeah, might as well while we're there.
Yeah.
Just two things, really. I agree 100% with the bigger picture. Monthly chart and the weekly chart are telling me exactly the same things that you're seeing. The daily chart is, and you accept this as well. If you have a look at the daily chart, that double top sitting there, the extreme high has got a lovely little trend line coming down through the lower high.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This one here.
Yep.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And that requires a bit of work now to get short. I like it if it comes underneath there. I really do. I think you're 100% on the money. But for mine at the moment, It's just got a little bit of work to do to get through there. Once it
Yeah.
does, and the issue for me may be, if it does break there, it might just keep going and not give me an opportunity. So I may well miss it. But that's
Yeah,
kind of
well,
where I am.
do you know, mate? I think I know what you mean, and I looked at that trend line as well. But I wonder whether you probably will get the opportunity, and your entry would end up being a lot safer than mine, because I wonder, if it's going to come down, it's probably going to do that. It's probably going to bounce from here.
That's what I would hope. Yes.
Yeah, so you'd look for that as an opportunity and a better opportunity, and actually, fact risk to reward ratios. And this is the thing: getting in up here doesn't necessarily mean you make more money, because your risk to reward at this lower point might be tight. It might be able to be a lot tighter because you've got this area as a resistance point. So I'm not really encouraging people to see this as a better opportunity, because it may well not be. The reason I'm trading this in this particular way is because of what I've seen from seasonality and what I've seen from COT data. And then I've looked at the technicals. Now, I agree with you, mate, but, and I've had a problem with that level. And funnily enough, it coincides, pretty nicely with the, whoops, what's happened there? Just changed my chart. It coincides pretty nicely with the pivots as well. The pivots are a little bit higher, but it coincides fairly well with those pivots as well. So, yeah, it's got some work to do. And to be fair, it will still have work to do. If it does break through here, then it will look better because it will be below the weekly and monthly pivot. However, it's still going to have some work to do to get through this. It's still got to get through this as well. So it's got quite a lot to do, really, to fall from this particular point. But as I say, I've made my decision off the back of the COT data and the seasonality, and to a degree the fundamentals. I mean, the fundamentals from the numbers and the data points from Australia have actually been pretty good. And what I'm a bit concerned with those numbers being pretty good is that it hasn't gone anywhere. So that always brings up a little bit of a red flag to me. I think, well, they've got, the Aussie bulls have got the catalyst, have had a catalyst to push this market higher, and yet they haven't taken it. So either they're waiting for something else, or the people that are prepared to sell at cheaper prices are looking at this and saying, well, the data is going to get as good as it's going to get, and actually all we're waiting for is this to start the data to roll over a little bit, and this is going to be kind of like picked out as the potential top. So yeah, that does concern me a little bit, mate. Is the lack of momentum to the upside on decent data. Now,
Yep.
Let's look at some of the other bits and pieces as well, mate. And unless you got anything else right now,
No, not to add to that. That's fine.
okay. So let's look at some of the other bits and pieces that have been going on. Bitcoin, really important. What's happened to Bitcoin over the weekend. The biggest fear, to my information, the information that I have, the biggest fear that that cryptocurrency traders have, or cryptocurrency producers have, is regulation. Because if regulation comes in, that means cryptocurrencies effectively step right into line with regular currencies. So they don't want regulation. It's bad for the crypto space to have regulation. Now, two things have happened recently that could force governments and the Fed and central banks to bring in regulation. The first thing is Dogecoin. I don't know if you've seen Dogecoin, mate, or if you're aware of the story of Dogecoin.
I heard Julian and Shukri were talking about it last night, but yeah.
Oh, it's astonishing. What's happened to Dogecoin is absolutely astonishing. The move has been astronomical. And it's not really, from what I gather, Dogecoin was kind of built as a bit of a joke against Bitcoin. So if you've got somebody building a coin, somebody making a coin for a bit of a joke and a bit of a game, and it starts to increase in value in the way that it has, in a way, it's kind of no different than you telling me a Chinese whisper and selling it to me, and then me selling that information to somebody else, and somebody else and somebody else, and everybody's aware that it's a Chinese whisper, but they're willing to pay for it as an important piece of information, in a way, in the same way that they pay for an important piece of information, then it's concerning. You know, that kind of thing is very concerning for the industry, because all it takes is for that to turn around and start to plummet, and a lot of people are going to be left in a very difficult position. And it's that kind of thing which is going to bring in regulation. You know, the governments and central banks can't really afford for people to get caught out on something which is just hot air, effectively. So it could bring up a red flag there. Now, the other thing is that that they are talking about potential regulation, because the Fed are worried about money laundering and cryptocurrencies used for money laundering. So we've seen this big move to the downside with cryptocurrencies. Now, I'm kind of informed, educationally informed by my my buddy who's very knowledgeable about crypto, that this is just the state of play with crypto. It always happens. And if you look at the, you know, what happened with XRP, then very much the same thing. You know, they had a court case with the SEC, and the price plummeted, and really since then it's just jettisoned to the upside at an astronomical pace. So yeah, I get it. I get the fact that this stuff does kind of plague the crypto industry, and it goes on. But at some point, it will turn things around. At some point, you won't be able to just kind of sweep this thing aside and say, well, that's cryptocurrencies, no big deal. You know, it will be problematic for the crypto space.
I think we've always said that, you know,
yeah,
because it was common sense that once it started to get traction, somebody's going to notice, and they go, well, hang on a minute, we control this game, buddy, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But exactly. So
the argument against that, of course, is that because it's so secure in its deregularity, and I'll call it code, for want of a better word, it to the proponents of it, it will not only survive, it will thrive. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Well, the thing is, from what I gather, you know, some of the crypto producers are actually concerned that that if regulation comes in, they will have hurdles they're going to have to cross. Now, what will then happen is that probably anyway, is that the coin, because crypto, there's no doubt in my mind that cryptocurrency is a really, really important space. The problem is that it has become like the Wild West, where every man and his dog is now coming out and inventing a cryptocurrency and putting it on and saying it's got this usage, and people have put an imagined value on it. So potentially what could happen is regulation comes in, and they really do sort out the wheat from the chaff, where you're going to get the genuine coins and the ones that do have genuine functionality surviving, because they will be able to get through the regulation, and you will have the ones that are just fake and useless, like Dogecoin or Dogecoin, whatever, whichever way you want to pronounce it, will just fall away and become nothing. So there will be a lot of them that will just be culled. Now, I don't.
Well, the sooner that happens, the better, obviously.
Yeah, well, yeah, you absolutely right. And at some point, the fact is that my issue right now is that it is on the radar again, and the way that crypto has had these just astonishing moves in the way that it has, is because it's kind of been off the radar. It's been under the radar. So the volatility is really, it's been all over the place, but people can really trade it and buy it because of what they think could come in and what they think will happen to it. But ultimately, what we're going to get, you know, potentially what we're going to get, but ultimately what we'll get is some actual facts. You know, which way is it actually going to be used? How is it going to interact with everyday life? How is it going to interact with the common man and the common financial system? Because at some point it'll have to fall into line, I suspect. So what's happened over the weekend and what happened to Dogecoin is concerning. You know, that stuff is concerning. It suggests that maybe that day, maybe that moment where we start to fall into the point of regulation becomes ever closer. And if it becomes that little bit closer, then Bitcoin is overvalued at this point, because the freedom aspect of it has just been diminished and taken away. So that's cryptocurrencies, and really that kind of brings us back to gold and silver. So if these are trusted assets, what's going on here with gold and silver? I've still got a bit of an issue with gold and silver. I've still got a bit of an issue specifically with gold to the upside. And if we look at the chart,
silver,
if we look at the the chart on gold, maybe not so much silver. We could look at that maybe, but more importantly, gold. What we've got is a lower high, a lower low, and a potential lower high, and a horizontal level. So gold is still not at this stage providing clear and confident information that it is going higher, in my opinion. This to me is a test. It's just a retest of a breakout point. So if this becomes a retest of a breakout point, when does that change? Well, in two pieces of information would be really useful here. So the first thing is we've got this kind of bar here down the bottom. We've got this bar here down the bottom. Now we've got this bar forming here, and this bar is doing something like this. In actual fact, let's do the first one. That's the first bar. That's the first bar here. Now, what we've got going on is bar 3. So if that's bar 1, this is bar 2. Now we're on bar 3 here. What we've got going on is the potential for a morning star. This to cut deeply into the body, cut and close, I should say, deeply into the body of bar 1. This is bar 1, 2, 3. That's possible that happens. Now, if that doesn't happen, and rather than getting a morning star, we get what I call a false dawn, this happens. Where, in actual fact, it's going to go a little bit higher, where it doesn't close significantly into bar 1. It closes around about the 50% line here. And I call that a false dawn. I call it an attempt to make that morning star, but the sun never really rises high enough in the sky. Now, this is a monthly chart, so we're not going to know this until another 2 weeks, what this is going to do, because what might happen is that it might continue to travel to the upside, but then towards the end of the month come down and give us something like that. You know, and a bar like that is going to look, to me, relatively negative. So we don't really know until the end of April what kind of picture, for sure, you know, we don't know what kind of picture we're going to get with gold. Now, of course, on a daily aspect, what can happen is that this gold chart might provide us with a break of this area on a daily, comes back and gives us a retest of that area, which would be the trigger to go long, and then you'd be looking for the morning star to actually form. So it's not that you're waiting for the morning star. What you're waiting for is a shorter term time frame to confirm that this particular horizontal level is going to be become support rather than resistance, and then you're going to wait and see whether you're going to get that morning star, and then we can be a bit more comfortable. So we're not going to do anything here really. But this area is important. You know, we really are at a bit of a crossroads, in my opinion, when it comes down to gold. It looks positive right now, and treasury yields are sinking somewhat. So that's a good sign for the crypto, for the gold space. But we're not there yet. We possibly have a little signal, a small signal here on the 4-hour charts. And if you like the 4-hour chart instead of the daily, you're going to get in earlier, but you're going to get a lot more false signals. So it's really kind of down to a matter of choice from here on in. But I would say that this particular area is pretty important, mate. Now, if you entered here, you'd be pretty confident right now that you can start sliding stops a bit closer and be a bit safer on it. But I think that this might be a bit of a line of contention over the next 12 days. But I don't know how you see that, mate, or whether you've even got an opinion on gold.
Look, I really don't have a massive. Well, I have got an opinion, and at the moment, I see that we've got a double bottom on the bigger time frame, and potentially the higher low that we were speaking about last week. Now, I was looking for a lower higher low than we have. I think it's on the daily chart, actually, mate. I'm not sure. Can't remember where that double bottom is. It would be the daily. Yeah, there. So the double bottom followed by the higher low, which is now evident, is meaningful. Now, where that ends up, I don't know. I was looking for it to come lower from a technician's point of view, to put that higher low in, but it may well be the case that this is the trigger point. It may not, but certainly that looks interesting to me.
Yeah, and we've got this level here as well that looks like it's been broken through and held. So not a nice signal anyway for short term upside. Now,
absolutely.
I've still got some longs in gold.
And like I said last week, this was one of the Wednesday wonders that I called Wednesday. We had 10. Well, there were a few more, but there were 10 key reversal bars. And this was a key reversal bar followed by an inside bar. That was an absolute perler of what we're looking for. And 8 of those key reversal bars actually went on to be winners. The other 2 didn't trigger. It was a hell of a day for key reversals. Hell of a day.
Oh, I mean, do you know what? It's interesting actually talking about bars. We just done an IFP this weekend, and I always get reminded of how strong the engulfing bar is, and here's a really good example of that there.
Same bar.
Same bar, yeah. It's a good one, isn't it? Really good bar. And that would have probably been. I would have thought. Let's just draw that there and carry it up and have a look at it. This one, oops. Yeah, you'd have been a nice free trade really, not right now if you'd taken half your profit at that point. So those engulfing bars are good again. Okay, John. Yeah, sorry mate, I didn't see these. If they try and close down, they will just reinvent it. Yeah, this cryptos are here. There's no doubt they're here to stay. Governments around the world want their tax, of course they do. They just need to excuse to regulate, and they just might have been given the excuse. You're absolutely right. Exactly. That's the thing. It's going to come eventually. We just don't know when. When the thing with Bitcoin and the thing with Ethereum, the thing with all of this stuff, is that it's toppy. So anything that kind of provides some kind of hint that it could start to turn is going to be taken. Now, to be fair, it's held its area actually pretty well. If we think about market structure, this is not a lower low. So we're not in a downtrend on Bitcoin by any stretch. The question is it coming? Yeah, we got that trend line there as well, which is this price point. This price point I know was I know it came below that particular price point. I think it was down at 52 at one point. So I know that particular price point is just on MT4. But over the weekend we were down here, and now we're seeing it on Monday back up here, and it's currently held. But if you look at the shorter term timeframes, it looks sellable. When I looked around at some of the other cryptocurrencies, they look sellable. They don't look like they would provide a buying opportunity here. Now, of course, the way you make money, the way you make more money, is by buying when everybody else is fearful and selling when everybody else is overconfident. And I suppose over the weekend we had an example of short-term buying when everybody else is fearful. But over the long term, we're still very confident and maybe a bit overconfident on the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space. But look at that bar currently. It looks ominous, doesn't it? That looks ominous. This looks ominous. There's just some signs and signals here that suggest that this is not the time to buy. Whether it's the time to sell, I don't know, because we had ominous signals here and nothing really happened. but this is looking a bit ominous to me, mate. I don't like the fact that that Bitcoin's not tested anything.
It's just tested a few people over the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I think
and I apologise. I shouldn't laugh at that. That's not funny if you're on the wrong side of it at all. Not funny.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You're absolutely right. It's it's a difficult one, but it hasn't tested anything, and that is, as I say, that is a bit of an issue. And I was trying to trade Argo blockchain, but interestingly, Argo blockchain gave a signal about this downside before the crypto space started to move. So it's actually become a really good barometer.
It's interesting. Julian was talking about that last night, how he believes it's a leading indicator to what the S&P is going to do.
Well, Bitcoin. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I don't know about that. I've got no opinion on that whatsoever, to be honest. But it could be. Yeah, I mean, if anybody's going to have researched that particular theory, it would be Jules. So I wouldn't ignore that.
Yeah, look, interesting. And I actually asked him the question. How can it be that something so relatively new as not so much Bitcoin, but the crypto space itself be a leading indicator of something that's been around since Adam played fullback for Jerusalem, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't really.
And what was his response?
He explained it well. No, well,
okay.
he depicted it graphically.
Yeah.
He depicted it graphically, and Adam was not the best fullback for Jerusalem.
And that's the thing, isn't it? You can rely on Jules to actually give you the information with evidence.
Yeah, look, absolutely. He doesn't make statements off the top of his head. It's very much a research thing. My word.
Okay, mate. Well, that's pretty much me. So the short way of saying that is that I'm short on the Aussie yen.
Yeah, look, as I said, I can't argue with your analysis on the bigger timeframes at all. The only issue that I would have getting into it at the moment is that it's, for me, got to get below that trend line.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a look at the other ones for Gyra?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Over the weekend as well, we had news from Tesla. A self-driving car crashed and burnt out over the weekend, and a couple of people were killed in that. And it's a story, I think, with actually quite large ramifications, because
there'll be a lot of people waiting for that to happen.
They absolutely will, and when it comes, Elon Musk is really keen on this self-driving car space. That's really what he's after. He really wants the self-driving car technology to be taken up. So it could put Tesla back a little bit. I don't know what will happen to their share price today, but I think that they could be in for a bit of trouble. CAD yen. The CAD continues to be really supported by the price of oil, which is going up. But you can see really on the chart that the CAD yen is showing some ominous signs here after a huge run to the upside. So I'm bullish on the yen. This has got a head and shoulders pattern, which looks a lot cleaner. And it looks to me like we are probably in a similar situation where we're seeing a relatively significant area of support here. Resistance here on the monthly being reacted to.
It's pretty much the top of the most recent range right there.
It looks, yeah, it was certainly the last point of contact after it broke through this area. So this would be an obvious place for the CAD yen to cut back into around about 84.50.
And I think really that's the story on the yen pairs. If I'm to summarize them, Gyra, for you, as to my opinion, I think they're at resistance levels. And that's going to have, and in some cases, very strong resistance levels. I think the strongest of those was probably pound yen, if I recall. But it hasn't quite reached it on pound yen. I think the pound yen resistance level is 155, and it hasn't quite got there yet. So that may have a little bit of upside in it. But the others seem to be at very strong resistance levels. If you go to the monthly, mate, and draw a trend line, you'll see where that level is. And there's a confluence right on 155.
155. I see the 155, yeah. That's the 155 area. Yeah, so I mean, it hasn't quite got there, is it?
Not quite. And there is a trend line that comes down. You probably have to go a little bit wider on your chart if you can.
No, I can't actually. I can't.
You can't.
There is a setting that you can improve the date range on this, but I can't find where it is.
I'll show mine.
Yeah, great.
Because I've got that up.
Yeah, interestingly, the pound is the weakest currency this week, in accordance to COT data. So probably on a shorter term, the yen might be worth trading against the pound instead.
Yeah, look, I don't see that much upside to be had on pound yen, but I do concede that it isn't yet at its, I'll put it as a zenith. I'll call it a zenith. But the interesting part, of course, is it's got a very strong base here. You know, it doesn't like it down here, that's for sure. And, you know, we've had a series of double bottoms here and higher high, higher low, massive breakout. I'm thinking it's due a little bit of a rest. And that's kind of where I'm at with the yen pairs at the moment. I don't disagree that they could go a little bit higher before they go short, but I think a lot of them are at strong resistance levels or resistance levels that would indicate that there's going to be a little bit of a retracement at the very least. So that's kind of where I'm at with that gyro.
Yeah, always like the pound yen as a short-term trade. I think it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, I think it's tough to call short term at the moment. I've got a bit of a trend line option here, but I really haven't seen something that compels me to get into the market because we do have that space above. You know, it could well just continue to take off from here. But
yeah,
I can also see the need for retracement. So, and look, when I was doing my analysis yesterday, I found that was very much the case. Euro Aussie in particular had me completely bamboozled because I see on the weekly chart, I think it was, the double top sitting there and a lower high. But on the monthly chart, I also see phase one, phase two without pullback, and we're at a fairly decent old resistance level. We've got a little bit of a warning signal there in the doji bar as well. Well, not quite a doji bar, but this to me looks like it has to retrace as well. But then I look at the smaller time frames, I see the potential for this to go long. And then I go back to here. I'm on the wrong chart. No wonder I'm confusing myself. This is still in play, as I said before. And then I look at the bigger picture. I can't help but think that that's going long. I just can't help it because it's such a strong support level. Look at that level, you know, it's undeniable. So I've got to be looking for a bounce here. Technically, it's got to go long. But as I said before, at the moment, I've got a very strong case for it to go short on the smaller time frames. So it may be a case of short to get long. It's refused to go back above that trend line. And when that happens, maybe something else is happening, as I always say. The pivots have got it locked at the moment. So I'm really not interested in trading it. But I think come tomorrow, I'll be looking for this to push down. And then when it gets to a certain level, maybe around here, I'll be looking for it to push back up. It may even have one more low in it before it goes. It may well, but I'm bullish, really bullish. Yeah, it did. I just saw the euro take off. Yeah.
Yeah, looks pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. Current account just came out at 25.9 billion, with a previous at 30.5 billion. So why that's jumped to the upside is a bit of a strange one.
Well, I challenge you to find an entry on it as well. You know, it's a bounce off the weekly pivot, but look how it opened the day, gap down, opened the day, hit the weekly pivot, and bang. I don't know how you trade that unless you've got a limit entry order here with your stop loss down
Yeah,
here somewhere.
yeah, there's no way, mate. There's not a chance. I'm just looking at my signals as well, and as you say, the move up was just it was just off. In fact, there's only one way to trade it from what I can see, which is a pattern. You see that on the 15th of April. It looks like 7 o'clock.
15th of April.
Yeah, that low there.
Here.
Yeah, and a little, if you were to draw a trend line and extrapolate it to the right.
To here.
Yeah, that's about.
Oh, you'd use the close, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but even then, you're sort of stretching the friendship a bit. But that's if you duplicate that line, is there a pattern up high up the top?
I don't know how to duplicate.
If you just click on it and just hit, yeah, just use that. That's fine.
You're stretching it, I think.
Yeah, definitely stretching it on you.
Right click and do what?
Oh, just hit. If you go to it and then let me do it on my chart as well. Double click it so you get the bubbles, and then you can control hit control and
control.
Hold control.
Yeah.
And just drag another line away.
Look at that. Magic.
But you're actually, what you did was better. I mean, if you're going to draw an equal line, then channel is probably a better way to do it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be that creative, then
yeah,
you're just kidding yourself at the end of the day. It's not there. There's no way to trade that unless you've got a magic number down here that says it's going long at 1.1950 or whatever it is.
I mean, the daily bar, mate, is if that was to close where it is now or anything above, it is going to look incredibly bullish.
Yeah, it is. Well, there was a way to trade it, I suppose. That little pullback on Thursday. That would be the only way I could see to get into that. And I'm not even sure what you'd be trading then. False break of that horizontal level, I guess. Yep. Makes sense. So not impossible to trade it. Just I don't have a system that allows me to get into that sort of move without any sort of notice.
I don't have any indication to suggest that the euro is particularly strong. How's it performing? Let's just have a look. Euro yen. Yeah, you see that this is interesting. Euro yen is not showing the same signal at all. Euro pound doesn't look too bad. I'll tell you what. I mean, let's have just having a quick look around here. If you compare the euro to the CAD, big move up. You compare it to the Aussie, pretty flat actually. Compare it to the Swissy, decent move. Compare it to the CAD, decent move. Compare it to the pound, not a bad move. Compare it to the yen, pretty flat. So it's telling us really that that the yen particularly and the Aussie are the two strongest currencies. Just comparing those two right now.
Glad we didn't trade the pound. We would have got hammered.
Yeah, was there a range there?
No, it already broken out. See?
Yeah.
But if you traded that bar and gone short as you would have, you'd be smashed.
I don't understand this sort of drastic movement in the market up or down with no fundamentals behind. There will be something, Jira.
Yeah,
we just don't know what it is. Because it's not, this is the thing, isn't it? We use Forex Factory as an overview, but it's not very detailed. Doesn't really give us what's going on. Let's have a quick look around and see whether Reuters have said anything. I haven't got my eyes on everything at the minute, if I'm honest. I don't see a great deal on Reuters. Europe, let's see. There will be more money. Austria adjusts budgets to reflect lockdowns. Nothing there. No, there's nothing. There's no breaking news. And whenever you see that as well, the other thing is if you look at what's going on with Forex Factory, very, very quiet in data today, and that means there's probably a lack of liquidity. So it also suggests that any moves will be quite drastic on a day like today, even though they're not significant. I'm not sure whether the euro will be here by the end of the day. I'd be surprised if it is.
Dollar index is pretty strong support level right now. This may not last. Depends on what it is, why it's doing it. But
yeah, we'll find it. We'll have a little dig around and see what the key is. The trade balance is a bit odd for me. Not the trade balance, sorry. The current account is a bit odd. The fact that did come in weaker. Yeah, it doesn't look. Actually, I don't know. Actually, it's quite a lot of volume on that. This could be more significant. This might be. Do you know what? We're going to need to do some detective work here. This actually does look like a relatively significant move. So we're going to need to find out why.
I might be looking for reversals of this move. That would be my interest. But I agree. You'd want to know why first before you jumped into the market here. But yeah, this is an interesting day so far. Down, up, through. Interesting. That's the Aussie I'm looking at there. Euro the same.
Yeah, I mean it's not for me, mate. I've chosen my my
poison
battle
for the day.
Yep. Yeah, I've chosen my poison for the day, and I'm going to drink it and see if it kills me or makes me into Asterix the Gaul. I don't know which one yet.
What did we trade? Euro Swissy. That hasn't taken off. It's a dollar story for sure. Interesting. Okay. I'm about done. I don't know if anybody else has got some other questions. If so, then we'll hang around, but I'm good to go and have dinner, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a quiet one. So I think we're all right to take our eyes off it today.
One bold move in the middle of it.
Yeah. One bold move in the middle of it, absolutely right. And you know, from my perspective from here on in, I'm likely just to turn the charts off. I don't think there's going to be much. I'm going to do some research in the background rather than actually looking at my charts, because I don't think I'm going to find anything that I want to trade. Obviously, I've got the Aussie yen on, but that's now really, it's managed, isn't it? I've got my stop in place, and I'm looking for a move a lot lower. So it would have to have a pretty cataclysmic event for it to drop substantially. So I'm going to take my charts off and do some research, mate. I don't think I've got much interest in watching these charts for an entry today.
I'm interested. David's just put up a post there that he put a limit entry order at 1.3877, and it didn't trigger. So I think I'd be thankful that it didn't trigger. You had a short here. Is that right, David? A short on DR1.
Let me order on.
Such a thick spread, it didn't trigger you in. Don't get it.
1.3. Oh, hold on a minute. Had such a thick spread, it didn't trigger you in. Hold on, 1.30. Let's have a look. Pound dollar.
That level's right there. So if it had a thick spread, it should have triggered you in anyway. So I don't know what's going on there, mate.
You got a sell limit, have you?
That's what I'm assuming. Long.
A sell limit long?
No, he's saying he's long at 138.77.
But price isn't above that point, though, is it?
So you mean a stop entry order, David, rather than a limit entry order?
1.3087. 1.3.
No, I think.
Oh, hold on. 1.3087. Yeah. 1.30.
No, I think the zero is a mistake, I think.
Oh, there is a mistake. So it's 1.3.
Because that's way down here.
If it's 1.3877, it must be a sell limit. You must be looking at a sell limit, David. Is that right?
No, he said he's traded it long. So he probably means
on Friday.
Aha.
Okay.
3807. Okay, that makes a difference.
3807. Okay.
Okay, I see why you would do that. That makes perfect sense because you've got a great.
You know
great
what? Yeah,
levels.
you might have missed it by a pip. My low, if that was on Friday. Hold on. When did you take that then? Okay, yeah. My low at that particular point is 1.3809. So it looks like you're even, but you might be just below the entry point there, mate.
Shame. Would have been a nice one.
Yeah, really good. And it's one of those that you know, when you look at it, what's there? Is there a pivot there or something? Is there? I can see the price action, but I can't see if there's any.
Don't know, but look at the entry there. That's the entry right there. Bang. Double bottom. Higher low.
Yeah, it's a nice, really nice entry. So you came under the monthly pivot, yeah. Yes, it's difficult. I mean, it's, you know, it's margins. Does using like a currency strength meter on like Finviz give me an edge on Forex?
If you know how to use it, David, I think the answer is yes. It's very handy, but I think, like I said on, was it Thursday? I believe you can misuse it or misread it, because if you're going on, you know, a single day or a single time frame, it can be very misleading. I think you need to line the ducks up, you know.
Yeah, you do, and it's an interesting question in a lot of ways, because some people will trade on different signals. Like, you know, for example, MACD, if it's traded properly and understood, is an edge, but when it's misunderstood and traded improperly, is that a word, Jeff?
That is.
Improperly, then it's an anti-edge. So it's difficult to say, you know, what's an edge and what isn't an edge, because it's really about the understanding of the tool that you're using. Level 2 is a really good example of that. You know, order flow. When you look at order flow and the market orders that are going into the system, it's an edge if you understand how to read the tape. But if you don't, and you're just looking at all these numbers flashing around, you can convince yourself that you're seeing something that you're actually not seeing. But what I would suggest is, if you like it as a tool, then experiment with it and try and get used to it. Maybe because you use Finviz for an indication, don't you, Jeff?
I do. I don't look at it all the time.
Okay.
If I'm confused in my directional bias, one versus the other, then I absolutely have a look at it. But I won't go on, okay, today the Kiwi is stronger than the Aussie. That doesn't mean much to me. I can see that in the chart. What I can't see in the chart is really the flow, if you like, of going from, okay, how did it perform this quarter versus this month? In other words, which one's headed in a direction versus the other. And sometimes,
I'll tell you what, mate. Why don't we have a section on this at some point during the week, and you can talk us through Finviz and how you use it and how you interpret it, just so David can see whether it's a tool that he can use and wants to use.
All right, sure.
Okay, we'll do that potentially tomorrow. I would have thought, rather than Wednesday, because Wednesday looks pretty heavy on data. So let's look out tomorrow, and you can prepare an hour long.
Maybe
PowerPoint.
Thursday's better because Shukri's in tomorrow, and he's
sorry. Okay, so Thursday you can prepare an hour long PowerPoint and give us a lesson of how to use Finviz.
Okay, got nothing else to do this week. Sure.
No, we'll just have a little look at it and see how it's going. All right, mate. Well, let's wrap it up.
Yep, happy days. We're away, and really sorry, guys, for being late today. If you really want to know, I was down the paddock with my guy who's my excavator driver, and he's been promising to come since Christmas time. And of course, he could only come an hour before the session started. What could I do? I had to talk to him.
Of course,
I thought would be well finished before the show. So my apologies for that.
And my apologies for missing your message, mate, because I should have been in as well, but I just I missed Skype. So
through all of these things, there's only one conclusion to draw, mate. SH1T.
And on that note, we will see you in the morning. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Thanks, Angel, as always. Thanks for your assistance, as always, mates, for what I'm looking at. I will see you tomorrow morning.
Cheers, guys.